You got it? No.
Okay,
Sorry.
so he looks a little bit younger in the picture. He still looks good for a man who's closer to 50 than to 80. I'll let you guess what that means. So I met Phil Robertson first in the early 1990s. He was doing development work for PBA. And I was working for a consultancy on clean energy with the Thai government. And I've known him for a long time, and I've never known anybody who absorbs information and focuses on facts and not opinion, and marshals that information towards the greater good in the fields that he has been working in, human rights, labor rights, democracy. So I couldn't think of anyone better to get us fired up, and he actually has a little chant for that, which we'll get into. So Phil,
Don't give it away.
Phil, I'd like to invite you back here. We're also doing this, doing live video, so people who are zooming in, we probably have, I don't know, 5 or 10 people, or 5,000 people zooming in. Anyway, Phil, please fire us up.
All right. Thank you all. And thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, Martha, for helping organize. It's a pleasure to see you all. My name is Phil Robertson. I'm based in Bangkok. I've lived there for about 30 years or so. And previously was chair of Democrats Abroad two different times. A total, I think, of 8 years I was doing it. And I was someone who, when I first joined Democrats Abroad, actually, I think it was 1994. I met Gary Swanerat and a bunch of folks who were down in Bangkok. They were having a meeting about Democrats Abroad, and they started talking about the rules of the committee. And they went on and on and on about the rules of the committee, and I wanted to talk about the issues. So I said, I gotta go to the bathroom, I'll be back. And I kept going. I went out the door and didn't come back for 10 years. But Gary recruited me in what was probably one of the worst times before the Trump era. She recruited me in 2005 to be chair of Democrats Abroad. And that was right after, of course, George W. Bush had won re-election against John Kerry. And that, you know, Kerry had been swift voted, he had been leading in the polls, and all of a sudden we lost again. And everybody was so depressed. And so Gary's like, I can't do this anymore. I got to find a new chair. So she recruited me. And I took over, and I was actually the chair during the period of time when this guy won. So when I was thinking about what I was going to say today, I was thinking about a couple different things. And there were actually two distinct themes that were sort of running through my head. And the first of them comes from seeing actually a lot of former President Barack Obama on YouTube, on TV. You may have seen him taking this Stephen Colbert questionnaire. You know, he's been going everywhere to tout his new Obama Presidential Center and campus, which of course is going to open on June 19th, on Juneteenth, right? And you know, the campus, if you go on the website, it looks pretty amazing. You've got a presidential center, you've got a forum, they even have a basketball court, the home court for, you know, kids wanting to come and exercise there. There's a John Lewis Plaza. There's even an Eleanor Roosevelt Garden. And then also, of course, you have what they call the Great Lawn, which is perfect because during the summer you can have picnics, and during the winter you can sled. So, of course, why not? I mean, it's a great functional addition. This one's better. Okay, it's a great functional addition to Chicago, and it's really exciting. And I was reading all these things, and I was like, you know what? This is what normal looks like. You know, this is what America looks like when it's run by a responsible adult, you know, who actually happens to be a progressive Democrat. You know, a guy who passed healthcare reforms that the Republicans are still trying to undo, and they haven't been able to do it. And I was thinking also, there's a famous story from the Barack Obama campaign, The famous campaign story starts when he was an underdog, when he was just getting going. His name recognition wasn't very high. One of the early primary states was in South Carolina. And he was going to get an endorsement from a state representative in a rural district. And so he was going out there, and he tells the whole story about all the things that had gone wrong the day before, and he's got like 3 hours of sleep, and it's raining and storming, and he gets out there, and he finds this activist group of people led by this state representative. And that state representative had a particular thing that she was known for, which was getting people fired up. And so what she would say is she'd say, "Fired up," and everybody would have to say, "Ready to go." So I want to try that. Ready? Fired up.
Ready to go.
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 Yeah. So that's the Obama campaign story, and that was actually the thing that ran through his campaign. He would always do that at all the rallies. Fired up, ready to go. Fired up, ready to go. So, and I remember where I was on election night in 2008. Do you remember where you were? 2008, and I was actually at the Roadhouse Barbecue in Bangkok. And actually, I was chairperson of Democrats Abroad Thailand. So for all the misery I suffered in 2005 when I was trying to get it going, the 2008 was great. And we had an amazing time there. We had so many people, the joint was rocking. I remember tears falling down my cheeks as Obama was taking the stage in Grant Park to give his speech. And it was an incredible campaign. I remember a campaign, both, the campaign in the US, but also the campaign here in Thailand. So we had these T-shirts. I don't even know how many we sold, but we basically rapidly expanded our bank account in terms of getting things for the party to be able to do work here. We were doing advertisements. Our membership went, I think, quadrupled in that 1 year. I mean, it was so dynamic. We had the global primary during the beginning of the year, where it was Obama and Clinton fighting it out. There was actually a polling station here in Chiang Mai. I think it was at the UN Irish pub, where people were coming out to vote, and voting that mattered, that counted, because it was our primary. I remember seeing actually kids who were just turned 18, who had been born to American parents or American citizens here, and they had never voted before, and they came out and voted in our primary. That was the first time they voted. They came with their parents. I was so excited for them. And so people were really fired up and ready to go. And, the result of that primary, of course, was that Barack Obama won overwhelmingly in Thailand and also around the world in Democrats Abroad. And I remember watching Barack Obama up on the stage and doing that. And it made me believe that everything was possible. That our country was finally on the right track over the long term. That America would be a force for good in the world, for rights, for the environment, for development, for democracy, all those things that I care about, all the things that I think that America should care about. And I remember thinking, okay, we finally arrived. This is it. And after the disastrous years during the W. Bush administration, the debacle in Iraq, to be honest, I was actually happy to be able to hold my head up high a little bit and feel proud when I was talking as an American with people from other countries around the world. It was quite something. And so the other thing I was thinking about was, how the hell did we get to this point now? From that high point now to here. Arguably the worst, most corrupt, and most incompetent presidents in U.S. history. He's taking a wrecking ball to just about everything that matters. Trashing voting rights, check. Running roughshod over democracy and accountability, check. Now we have this proposal for the $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, which is going to be a slush fund for January 6th rioters. They trashed the Capitol and then they're going to get compensation for it. Unbelievable. Trying to attack the U.S. as a diverse, multiracial country. Check. They've been doing that too. Attacking affordable health care. Destroying basic affordability through his crazy war with Iran. Creating fear on the streets, with armed militia that happens to be called ICE. Freedom of expression, peaceful protest, association, all these things, all these important rights. Environmental protection. We have a lot of people who have been working environmental issues who care about global climate change. He's taking a wrecking ball to all of that. Global development USAID. My daughter, who's in New York, she's now working as a headhunter for a legal firm. She doesn't want to do that. She wants to work in international development, but there are no jobs right now. It's been wiped out. Very, very difficult. And I'll tell you, how do we get to this point? Well, I'll tell you, we got complacent. First with Hillary in 2016, and then with Biden in 2024. Now, I'm not going to trash talk Joe Biden. He did a lot of good things. He passed some serious laws. He built a lot of infrastructure. He, moved the country forward through the pandemic. Nobody was talking about injecting bleach when Joe Biden was in charge. But he should have launched the prosecution of Donald Trump with the January 6th events the day after he entered the White House. And I'll promise you, if you promise that you're going to be a one-term president and you enter the White House at age 78, you should keep that promise. Not just seek to revise it because you did a little bit better than you thought you were going to do during the 2022 midterms. And if you pump trillions of dollars into the economy, which needed to be done to sort of get the ball rolling again after COVID, of course there's going to be inflation. Prepare for it. Figure it out. So none of this was rocket science. And, I've been reading now the latest that's come out from the Democratic National Committee. There's this, what they call the so-called autopsy report from 2024. What really it meant was two things. It meant that Kamala didn't differentiate herself enough from Biden. That he was unpopular and she needed to do something else, and she didn't do it. There are a lot of other things, but the basic issue of affordability, the basic issue of the economy was the critical thing that didn't get covered. And it's difficult. It's difficult. But the problem is that we're fighting against Trump. And say what you want about the guy, but he's the world's greatest reality TV star. Every day is a new issue. Every day is a new controversy. Tune in at 7, see what he said this time. He's got the media wrapped around his finger. And every new outrage, every new craziness. Now the latest, I don't know if you saw the news this morning, is he's going to say that anybody who is going to be applying for a green card, has to go back to their country and apply for a green card. So, American who meets someone who's a foreigner who's legally in the United States and wants to get married and that person would stay as a resident, he or she would have to go back to their country probably for a year or two to get processed. And of course, his followers drink all the Kool-Aid that he sends them. Hell, it's more than that. They actually pay for it. You just look what happened to Senator Bill Cassidy down in Louisiana, Representative Thomas Massey in Tennessee. You cross Trump and he steamrolls you in the GOP primary. And the anti-Trump wing of the Republican Party is on life support. It is actually probably worse than life support. It's well on its way to dying soon. Now the good news, and there is good news here, is that New York City Mayor Mamdani has laid out an affordability playbook in the brilliant campaign that he ran this last year, and the governing he's done since the start of the year. And he's figured out how to get people to talk about real people politics again, and not, what matters to people, and all that's really good. I mean, the Democrats paying attention, and what we're seeing across the country is people looking at that affordability playbook, like how do we talk about the economy? How do we talk about these issues? And people are starting to get excited about change. Like my daughter who lives in Brooklyn. So, I mean, she was so excited when Mamdani got elected. You know, she had canvassers in her building. They were coming up to talk to her. You know, they went to a campaign rally, she and her boyfriend. I mean, it was exciting. They like believe they're part of something bigger. And that's part of what we have to generate. That's part of what Obama generated in 2008. That there was a larger movement here. And it goes back to the point where, you know, affordability is the thing that we should be talking about, because this is what resonates with working families in the U.S. And these are the people we should be representing. These are the ones that we should be backing up. But it's a bit frustrating also for this, because we had to go through all this to remember the lessons that James Carville came up with in the campaign, the Clinton campaign back in 1992. Remember what he wrote on the whiteboard in that campaign office? What? It's the economy, stupid. Well, actually, he wrote 3 things, and it's worth remembering that there were 3 important things here. One, the first one was change versus more of the same, and we have to convince people that this is a change election, because it is a change election. This is where we basically hold them and push them back. Second, it's about the economy, stupid. That was the second point. And the third point that Carville wrote on the whiteboard was, don't forget healthcare. And if you ask people in the US, what is one of their biggest sources of anxiety? Is what happens if I have an accident? What happens if I get sick? It's really a problem. What I'm worried about, and of course I worry because I'm a Democrat, is that we have to earn this. We have to out-organize and we have to outrun the Republicans. We can't get complacent just because Trump was stupid enough to get into a war in Iran and he can't figure out how to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. You know, just because costs have gone up doesn't mean they're going to stay up. They can come down again. So, you know, we have to recognize that we can't accept that this is just going to be some sort of gift election that we just stand in place and the rain's going to fall and everything's going to be lovely. It's not. We have to out-organize them. We have to outrun them. And that's exactly what we need to do, because the GOP has so much more money than the Democrats. They have $600 million more than the Democrats. It's split up between a bunch of different pro-Trump PACs. MAGA Inc., very appropriately named, being the largest one. He's got $347 million in the bank to spend. And he's already said he's going to raise up to $1 billion. And he will. He's got other PACs. He's got Securing American Greatness and Never Surrender. Listen to the names of these PACs. Building America's Future. That's the one that he's doing with Elon Musk. There's an unprecedented amount of money coming in. And Trump is not done, because he's aiming to, as I said, raise a total of more than $1 billion that he can use for this coming campaign. And whatever he doesn't use will be held by him and used to continue to control the Republican Party when he's a lame duck between 2026 and 2028. Now, you know what? He's probably going to get that $1 billion too. Because what we're seeing is the ultra-rich, the billionaires, the Silicon Valley tycoons, they want the Trump gravy train to continue onwards. They want to have it keep rolling on and on. That's why he's holding events. He held an event at his Virginia golf club for crypto bros and AI innovators. You know how much it was per head to go to that dinner? Per head, $1.5 million for one dinner. So, this is a guy, it's pay to play. This is the pay to play administration. And these folks who are backing it have plenty of money to play. And they know if they put the money down, they'll get what they want. It's not like, previous administrations where I'm going to donate some money and maybe they'll, change policy to favor what I want. For Trump, it's like, put the money down, okay, we'll do it. You know, just like knocking down the east wing of the White House is not subtle. You know, it was supposed to be all paid by private donations. Now it's going to be partly paid by the U.S. taxpayer. You know, this is the pay-to-play administration. And all this is happening while at the same time Trump is attacking the Act Blue fundraising platform for the Democrats. So, give you an example here. Right now, cash on hand, the Republican National Committee has $116 million for the upcoming midterms. The Democrats have 4.5 million. So we're not going to beat them on money. We have to out-organize them. We have to basically be talking to our friends, talking to others, and getting people on board. Up in here in Chiang Mai, what that means is we have to basically get everybody to make sure they're registered to vote and they're voting absentee. You know, this chapter really was the first chapter of Democrats Abroad. It was always Bangkok as a national chapter and then Chiang Mai. And, you know, we're going to need people to help out, you know, in this sort of campaign moment between now and November. Make sure all your friends, everybody you know, and people that are coming in know that they can get registered to vote. So, I mean, we're really going to have a working team of people to help us out with that, and we'll talk more about that. Now, you know, we're talking about the money. You know, they've got a lot more money, but we've got a lot more people. And that's always been true. There are more Democrats registered in the U.S. than Republicans. We just have to get them out to vote. Now, let me say I can read polls as well, and they all look good. Trump's approval rating right now is at 37%, according to the New York Times. That's the lowest approval rate for a president in recent memory. I mean, it goes way back. This is lower than it was in 2018 when we had a blue wave. And the voters who are likely to vote are telling the New York Times that they favor the Democrats over the Republicans, 50 to 39%. There's a lot of other things. Only 28% of Americans approve the handling of the cost of living by Trump. Only 31% approve of his handling of the war with Iran. Only 30% think that he made the right decision in attacking Iran. And the people who were the groups that moved away from the Democrats in 2024, particularly young people, Latinos, they're coming back. But we have to out-organize the Republicans. That's the bottom line. But why? Because Trump, once again, he's trying to steal the election. And this is what we're looking at now with the redistricting playbook. People recognize that, you know, Trump in Texas fired first, you know, with the redistricting, then California came in. You know, there's now been this disastrous Supreme Court decision in Louisiana, which guts the Voting Rights Act. The bottom line is we're looking at now, if all the redistricting that is planned by the Republicans go through, that they would be able to create 15 safe seats for them. So, you know, they're on track to do that. The states where they're doing it will be, well, these ones are actually passed: Florida, Alabama, North Carolina, Tennessee, Ohio, Missouri, South Carolina, and Louisiana. The only one other than California that's passed redistricting that favors Democrats has been Utah, and that was because it was a court case. So they're going to not only try to outspend us, but they're also going to try to out-cheat us in the sense of like doing this redistricting. We didn't want to do this redistricting. Let's be very honest about this. But once it started, the Democrats had to be there and fighting back. So we need to beat a lot of money. We need to beat increasingly hostile districts. This is not going to be easy. You know, momentum will only get us so far. This is why we need to out-organize them. For the House, we need a net gain of 3 seats, which doesn't seem like a lot, but we will, as I said, have to combat these 2 things against us. Now, it's very possible that we'll be able to take back the Senate. We need to have a net win of 4 seats. 2 of the states look pretty good right now. That's North Carolina, where our guy, Governor Roy Cooper, is ahead by about 7 points. In Maine, where there's an insurgent Democrat named Graham Plattner, and he's ahead of Susan Collins by about 7 points. And if you haven't read the interview that he did with the New York Times recently, you should do so. It's really very good. But once we get past those two races, there's a lot of very big question marks. Ohio, can Sherrod Brown win his seat back again? You know, the one that he lost previously. Texas, can James Tallarico win a Senate seat for the Democrats in Texas? We always talk about this, right? Like, Texas, maybe, please. But if we're depending on Texas to take back the Senate, we're going to need a lot more people getting out to vote. Alaska, we've got a Democrat who's leading the Republican there, but Alaska is a very Republican state. It looks like John Ossoff is going to be able to hold his seat in Georgia, our Democrat. But you know that Georgia's always sort of on a knife's edge too, so we have to be really, really careful about that. So the Senate is not assured. But what I would say is that we have to get more people out. And so that's one of the reasons we're here to appeal to you today. We want to create a working team that can take the ball across the finish line in November for Chiang Mai. We want people who are able to, commit some time, talk to people, maybe organize some more events like this and others where people will be able to come and talk and make sure that everybody's able to get registered to vote. We need every single overseas vote, no matter what state it's going to this year. Now, if you look at the polling in the U.S., people will say, oh, well, they can break it down, the micro polls, like, in this district in Nevada or this place in Arizona, they know very, very closely what percentage of each side is Democrat, which side is Republican. The big mystery in American politics are us, the overseas Americans, where there are millions of us, but our voter participation is quite low, around 11%. Way lower than a lot of others. So we are the potential surprise element to this election. And we are the people who in the past have been able to provide through our mail-in ballots the winning margin in very tight races, both in the House and in the Senate. So that's our challenge. We're right at the front end of the primary season. This is the time to get registered to vote. This is the time to do things. So what we need to do is we need to think about what festivals are going on, what events are going on, places where we can do tables, where we can promote Democrats abroad, where we can have events like dinners or what have you. Maybe, for the younger folks, like, bar night or whatever, But let's do that. That's what we need to do. And that's why we're here to come and talk to you. And it's a pleasure to have a chance to speak with you all. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Fired up.
Ready to go.
All right, thanks, Phil. So we're going to take that and really appreciate those words. We're going to bring it back to you guys and what you can do. But before we do that, Dr. Harold Hibbert, who is a real doctor, I have a PhD, but I don't call myself doctor because it's just in public policy. But anyway, Harold's going to talk about resources that Democrats Abroad has and things that you can do to volunteer, including phone banking and things like that. And then we're going to circle back to you. I'll pass the mic around and we'll just see where you are and what you all want to do, because we're here to sort of get you fired up so that you can activate. And I think that the most important message is what we can do here in Chiang Mai is to use our networks to set up, coffee meetings every Friday where people can come and register to vote. I mean, people just don't know how to do that, and it's so easy. So Harold's going to talk about that a little bit, and then we'll circle back to you all. So Harold?